Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. So team, today we are planning to have a simple, overview on the AWS Certified Security Specialty exam and the changes going to happen for the exam, how to prepare for it, what are the key things we have to keep in mind while preparing for the exam, what are the job opportunities after this and those kind of stuff. And before I start, for those people who don't know me, my name is Krish. I'll be your instructor for this whole session. And I'm a security consultant, cloud security consultant, and enterprise cloud architect. I support organizations to move to cloud platform, design their cloud solutions, and plan a proper cloud governance strategy. I do the cloud auditing as well. That's about my profile team. I work with various organizations to secure their cloud infrastructure as well. Also, I do training for various cloud technologies. For more information, you can visit my LinkedIn profile. Now, team, today's plan is basically to discuss about the overview on these things. As I said before, we'll talk about the AWS certifications and the AWS Certified Security Specialty certification, the changes, and the domain-wise review. Now, so there may be a lot of people here who already have done the AWS certification. Like there is a lot of people who have already gone through the AWS architect certification, who have already prepared for the exams, who have already working in the cloud computing, who already cracked the AWS security exam and all. So this is basically for people who just want to understand how to prepare or plan for the AWS certified security specialty. Now, team, when talking about the AWS certifications, okay, when talking about the AWS certifications, just giving you a very high level overview on this. When talking about the cloud platform, the AWS is one of the top cloud service providers in the market, right? As you all know that AWS is one of the top cloud service in the market, and basically they offer a lot of certifications based on various categories. Like they are more specific. Like if you can see here, team, you can see that the AWS offers you multiple certifications starting from the foundation perspective to the associate to the professional to the specialty. They offer you vivid variety of certifications, and each of these certifications is specifically designed for certain kind of job roles or certain specific learning paths. Now, I just want to give you a small introduction about these certifications first of all. Then we will discuss about the AWS Certified Security Specialty in detail. Now, when talking about the cloud platform, like when talking about any cloud platform, we have something called as a AWS, we have something called as a Azure, we have multiple cloud service providers. So as I say in almost every sessions I am doing, team, whenever you talk about the word called as a cloud service provider, one common question that I always get is which is the best cloud service provider in the market? So that's a very common question which we get. Which is the best cloud service provider in the market? And like how can I basically choose the best provider and all? So team, the common answer which I always say is that, team, there is no best cloud service provider in the world, because every cloud service provider have their own advantages and their own drawbacks. And when it comes to AWS, this is one of the top providers in the market, even though they call it as a market leader, but they are one of the top leaders in the market who basically provide with a vivid variety of the cloud computing services and used by a lot of companies worldwide. Now, AWS holds more than 40% of the market share still from the day one that they have started. Now, these are the certifications which they are having. The first one is basically what we call as a AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. So as I say in almost every sessions, team, the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner is the most simple AWS certification which we have. So if there is anyone here who want to learn about the AWS cloud platform, or maybe who want to learn about the cloud fundamentals and to learn with the, start with the cloud computing journey, then this is the best certification for you, right? The AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. And again, like if you are a manager, or maybe if you're a person who just want to get a foundational knowledge of the AWS cloud platform, then this is basically for you. And this is, you have to know all the common services of the cloud service provider in a high level overview. You have to understand what benefits they are providing. You have to understand how that can help you for your business. And that is what we have to learn for the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. And the exam cost is actually $100 plus tax. Now, after this particular foundation level certification, team, the next level of certification which we have is called as a AWS associate level certifications. Okay, we have something called as a AWS associate level certifications. So what is a AWS associate level certifications? Now we have a 3 certifications there called as a AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, the AWS Certified Developer Associate, AWS Certified Systems Administrator Associate. So when you basically go for these associate level certifications team, if you want to start your journey in cloud computing, start yourself as a cloud administrator, or if you want to learn the architecting or designing principles of cloud computing and developmental concepts in cloud computing, then the AWS associate level certifications is the most important thing which we can go for. Like, I'll give an example team. Now let's suppose that many people ask me that, Krish, I am currently working as a system administrator, or I am currently working as a like maybe Windows or Linux administrator, or I am a network administrator, or I am a security expert. So for any of these people who want to start with the cloud computing and learn the designing part or the implementation part or the operational part of the cloud computing, then these are the best certifications you can opt for, the AWS associate level certifications. So just want to add team, the AWS certified solutions architect associate has got a very serious improvement recently. Like, now they have something called as a SAA C03. So now they have revised it to a new version, and this is one of the brilliant certifications we are having. Because what happens team, when you go for the AWS certified solutions architect associate, this will give you a very detailed idea on a lot of services in AWS. Plus, this is a very good course where you can get your foundation strong in the cloud computing, plus deployment in the cloud computing platform. Now, then we have something called as a professional level certifications team. So what is a professional level certifications? I'll give an example. Now you are currently learn the AWS certified solutions architect associate. And after this, you're basically trying to upgrade yourself or basically advance your skills yourself to more skills in the cloud platform. Now this is common question I'm getting. So Krish, I'm currently working in the AWS AWS cloud platform, or my company is currently utilizing the AWS cloud platform. I want to advance my skills, or maybe you're saying that I want to just learn whatever I'm doing in a more detailed way. In that perspective team, we can go for something called as a AWS certified solutions architect professional, or AWS Certified DevOps Engineer Professional. Just to give you an easy comparison, if you go for the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional, whatever you're learning in the associate level, you're learning in a much more deeper perspective with some more detailed concepts in the professional. For example, now we have a topic called as a AWS S3 in the associate level certification. The same topic here also we are learning, but in a more detailed architecture aspect with a, like, you'll be able to design more complex solutions and all this kind of stuff. That's what we do. And basically, for going for the AWS professional certification, AWS recommends you to have at least 2 years of AWS prior experience. And this is basically what we call as a AWS DevOps engineer professional. Now team, DevOps is everywhere, right? Now you will hear the word called as DevOps a lot. Now, what is the use of a AWS certified DevOps engineer professional certification? Now, let's suppose that team, you are currently handling the infrastructure and the application deployment, etc., in your on-premises, or if you are basically working as a DevOps engineer on-premises. If you want to move to cloud platform, or if you want to adopt the AWS cloud platform and deploy your whole CI/CD pipeline in the AWS cloud platform with a more automated services, then you can go for the AWS certified DevOps engineer professional. So this is one of the best certifications which you can get when you basically go for the AWS cloud platform. But again, as per the Amazon, they are recommending you at least 2 years of AWS cloud experience. But there is a lot of people who do this without that also. That is completely fine. But any which ways, you must have the knowledge on this before you can basically go for any of these certifications. Now, the last one is basically what we call as a AWS certified or AWS specialty level certifications. That means that team, this is not covering it in a more wider perspective. These are specific to the technologies. If you want to specialize in the database management skills, go for the AWS certified database specialty. If you want to specialize on the machine learning, AI, and all this kind of stuff, then go for the machine learning specialty. If you want to learn about the end-to-end infrastructure architecture of the cloud platform, learn the advanced networking specialty. Like this, we have different specialties. And Out of these things, the AWS Certified Security Specialty, the AWS Certified Security Specialty is one of the most demanding AWS certifications now available in the market. If you basically see the market share, or if you basically see the market value now, whenever talking about cloud security, one primary certification that most people recommend you, or most experts will recommend you, is the AWS Certified Security Specialty. And in this webinar, I'm going to give you an idea on the AWS Certified Security Specialty certification. Before we discuss about the AWS security certification, one major thing I want to add on this is that, team, there is a cloud infrastructure. When you basically go to the on premises, when you go for your own infrastructure in the data center, or maybe when you basically go for your own data center, what basically happens is that you are the provider, you are the consumer. So what you are doing there, team, whenever you are going for your own data center or your own infrastructure, there is no cloud service provider. So you have to manage everything from the infrastructure, the physical security, the hardware devices, the security, the physical hardware, the network security, the OS security, the application security. So everything from end to end, you have to handle by yourself. But when you basically go to the cloud platform, when you basically go to any cloud platform like Amazon or Azure or any cloud platform, you have to, or basically there is a cloud service provider who will take care of a lot of responsibilities for you. Okay, there is someone called as a cloud service provider who will take care of a lot of responsibilities on your behalf, and that is basically what we call as a security of the cloud. Security of the cloud, that means that the cloud service provider called as AWS is responsible for protecting the infrastructure, which is, and basically the services deployed by the cloud platform. So basically the hardware, the physical security, the networking, the facilities, and all those things which makes your cloud platform must be secured by the cloud service provider. And what is your responsibility is what we call as a security in the cloud, where you are responsible for securing the operating system or patching, maintenance, troubleshooting, database installations, identity and access management, platform security, encryption and key management, data security. So like this, you have a lot of responsibilities there. Now, Krish, why we have to learn this, or why do we basically have to learn about cloud security? Let's suppose that, team. Now, this is a common question I'm getting. So now there is a developer. Let's take an example for a developer. So team, my developer is aware of something called as a Python. Let's suppose that my developer is an expert in Python, or my developer is an expert in Java, or my developer is an expert in PHP. So he is expert in whatever things he is supposed to know, whatever programming languages he is supposed to know. When your company is moving to cloud platform, okay, when your organization is moving to cloud platform, does your developer has to also learn the cloud computing, team? Does your cloud service provider also have to learn cloud computing when your company is moving to cloud platform? Because they are already aware of the programming languages and all the kind of stuff they have to know. But when you are moving to cloud platform, does your cloud service provider have to know about the various stuff, like, or basically they have to know about the various kind of cloud service and all? Yeah, even if we say it depends, but in 99.99% cases, team, it is very important for the developer to basically understand, or it is very important for the developer to have a very detailed understanding of the cloud service platform. I'll give an example for that. Now, obviously, that when your company is moving to cloud platform, your applications may also move to cloud platform, right? Like for example, you have a customer application, or you have an application processing customer data. When your application is moving to the cloud platform, you already have a lot of security challenges. But when you say you are moving to cloud platform, your application is going to encounter a lot more challenges. I'll give an example, team. Now we have an application in our on premises. So what is the benefit? So this application is currently in my data center, in my server. So I have the complete control over it. I can customize it. I can get any log files I want. I can access it whenever I want. I know where it is located. I know what is security. But when you take this application to a cloud platform, like maybe Amazon, Azure, whatever it is, when you take it to a cloud platform, you have someone called as a cloud service provider there. You have something called as a shared responsibility model there. What is shared responsibility model? That means the provider will take care of something and the rest you have to take care. So there is a shared responsibility model. Then there is something called as a multi-tenancy. We are using a shared infrastructure where we have to go for something called as a encryption. It's a mandatory thing. Now we are basically going to a cloud service provider where we are going for a PaaS platform. So in the PaaS platform, do you have a complete control like the on-premises? No. Like this team, we are adding a lot more risk when you go to the cloud platform. If the developer who is developing these applications are not aware of that specific risk, when you go to the cloud platform, how can they develop a proper application for that? Or how can they ensure that the application is properly secure? So from your developer to your DevOps engineer to your operations persons to everyone in the company, they must be aware of the advantages as well as drawbacks in the cloud computing. Okay, that is the first point which I want to give you. Now, when I started my journey in cloud computing, like if you basically ask me I started my cloud journey in 2010, there was only one or two job roles I have seen. Like there is something called as a cloud architect. This is the only job role which I have seen, cloud architect, or maybe sometimes cloud engineer. You will see. But after some time, after 2016 or 2017, I'll say, now you can see that you have more than 100 plus job roles in the cloud computing. 100 plus types of jobs you have in cloud computing, and for all those job roles, almost every job roles in cloud computing, security in the cloud is a necessary skill. I'll give an example, team. Now let's suppose that you have learned AWS, or let's any cloud platform. Okay, you have learned AWS. Let's suppose you learned AWS, or maybe you have learned Azure, or maybe you have learned GCP. It's perfectly fine. Team, do you know what is the name of the service in AWS where we can store the object data, or like Google Drive? We have a service in AWS. Do you know what is the name of it? S3. S3. So there is a service in AWS called as a S3 or simple storage service. This is one of the most used storage service in the world in cloud. Okay, like the Netflix, the Amazon Prime, the like almost every websites you see, we are using this S3. It's one of the hottest services we are having in the market now. Now, let's suppose that you have learned AWS, you know how to deploy or how to create a S3 bucket, you know how to store data in it, you know how to manage replication of the bucket, you know the configuration part of it. But if you're not aware of the security challenges in the Amazon S3, what will happen, team? If you're not aware of the security challenges, what will happen, team? You will basically face a massive number of security issues and data loss, data breaches, compliance challenges. And that is the reasons why, team, if you simply Google it now, if you Google it now, just Google the AWS S3 breaches or AWS S3 compromises, you can see millions of it. You can see millions of compromises. Now you have seen that, just I don't want to say the name of it, but again, just a few days back, there is a there is some nearly 1.4 million customer data is breached from Amazon S3 bucket. If you see every year, 2020, 2021, 2022, every year you can see a massive number of breaches happens in Amazon S3. Now, obviously, there is a question which can coming up. Krish, if Amazon S3 is having this much amount of breaches, if Amazon S3 can basically have this much amount of challenges, then why do we have to go for it? It can cause lack of compliance, breach of customer data, privacy breach, penalties and all. Like it can be a massive challenges. So in that case, then why we have to go for Amazon S3? But if you see almost 70% of this attacks, team, if you basically see 70% attacks, all these 70% attacks for Amazon S3 happens because of only one reason. Can you guess it is what, team? 70% of all these things, all these attacks or all these breaches or all these compromises you see is because of only one thing primarily. Exactly. That is what we call as a misconfiguration. Misconfiguration. It's not negligence, we can say. It's a lack of knowledge. Misconfiguration. See, I just Googled it. when I was just while I'm talking to you, see, misconfiguration. Everywhere is misconfiguration. If you see any breaches, if you talk to any breaches, it is not because Amazon S3 is a bad thing. It is because of the misconfiguration. And do you know why misconfiguration happens? People only think about convenience or lack of proper cloud security knowledge. And that is the reason why, whether you are a cloud database administrator or cloud operations administrator or a cloud architect or cloud storage expert or cloud compliance expert or maybe cloud application expert, developer, whatever it is very important for you to have a detailed understanding and a proper awareness of the security in the cloud platform. This is a mandate. This is the easiest way I want to convey this message to your team. I hope you got it. Like, this is not the case of this one. Now you are deploying a database in the cloud platform. You're deploying a storage in the cloud platform. You're deploying a server in the cloud platform. You're deploying machine learning models in the cloud platform. You're deploying a lot of stuff like this. So what is the guarantee on all the security? If there is a misconfiguration happens, or if there is any kind of things like that happen, it is going to make the company pay a massive thing. Okay. And even though you see, I will just give you some, I'll give an example here, team. Just a minute, I'll show you something which I want to, just want to make you aware why this is important for us, because there is no point you're learning things without understanding the proper reason for a team. Just a minute, team. So if you basically go through, there is a document given by CSA. I will, if you want, I can share this link also, no problem, team. There's a document given by CSA called as a top threats in cloud computing. They will release it like maybe every year or 2 years. They will release the latest one is called as a pandemic 11. Okay, the latest top 11 vulnerabilities in cloud computing. Pandemic 11. See, it features the top 11 vulnerabilities. If you scroll down to the list of vulnerabilities you see here, you can see that misconfiguration is one of the major security issue we are having. Misconfiguration. See this, team? And the second one is lack of cloud security architecture and strategy. Lack of a proper cloud security architecture and misconfiguration is a massive challenge when you go to cloud computing. And this is what we have to fix when you're learning cloud computing. See, whether it's AWS or Azure or GCP or Alibaba or Oracle or IBM or any cloud platform, these two things persist. Until unless you know how to do things properly, until unless you're aware of how things are working properly, this can be a challenge for us. Okay. I hope you got a decent idea on this, team. Now, I hope you got an idea on why we have to learn the. And now, before we go to the security part of it, I want to give you one more thing. I want to tell you one more thing about this. For example, team, we are going to something called as a cloud platform. So Krish, you're talking about security. So I will put the proper security controls there. So I'll give an example, team. Now, if you basically go to AWS, what basically happens the team? Okay. Now, if you basically go to AWS, what happens that? Okay. So whenever you basically go to AWS cloud platform or maybe Azure cloud platform or anything like that, when you only focus on security, what will happen, team? You are now trying to focus more on security and you are putting all the security controls in place. When you focus only on security or when you focus more on security, what will happen there, team? That's a good idea for sure. But if you focus more on security, sometimes it can bring down the performance and usability. It can also bring down the performance and usability. That is one challenge we are having. The second challenge we are having is that, team, there is something called as a massive cost. I'll give an example. Now, let's take a simple example here. There is a attack. There is an attack which is basically there called as a DDoS attack. Team, do you know what is a primary goal of a DDoS attack? So to make things unavailable, right? To affect the availability, to make a thing unavailable, it can be a storage, it can be a server, whatever it is, to make something unavailable. That's a goal of a DOS attack. And this is one of the major threats faced by every companies nowadays. Okay, in cloud also there's no difference. You have a lot of DDoS attacks happening, and people are waiting for you to make a mess to your company. Now, so if there is a DDoS attack happens, okay, it can cost you per month or maybe per year, it can cost you around 12,000 US dollar. It can cost you around 12,000 US dollar loss. You will lose 12,000 US dollars per year. We call it as ALE, annualized loss expectancy. So totally it will cost you around 12,000 US dollars per year. You will lose the money. Now, so you're saying, Krish, I want to make sure I want to have a security for this. There is a service in AWS called as a AWS Shield. There's a service in AWS called as AWS Shield for this. So what we will do, team, this service can help you to protect against the DDoS attacks. But my question is that when we go for the AWS Shield, the problem is that the monthly cost for this, is that 3,000 US dollars plus. This will cost around 3,000 US dollars per month. This is per year. This is per month. Team, shall we go for it? What do you feel? Can we go for this? Because the cost of security control is more than what the loss we will incur if we have an attack successful, right? So this is not a feasible solution in that case. In the case example I told you. So what we have to do? Like, right. So that is the reason why what we do is that we have to have security for sure, and we have to find solutions for that. But that solution must be feasible in perspective of cost, in perspective of usability, in perspective of convenience, in perspective of interoperability and portability, in perspective of the business. So in all the perspectives, the solution you're choosing must be feasible. Now, that is the reason why when you become a security architect, when you basically become a cloud security architect, instead of simply learning the name of the solution, you have to learn about the solution, how the solution is going to help you, how much cost it will incur, what is the easiest way for doing, or what are the different ways of doing something. Like, for example, I want to have a DDoS protection. Shall I go for AWS Shield, or shall I go for AWS WAF? Shall I go for some third-party tools? Shall I do nothing? So which is the best method? You must be knowing how to choose it. So all these things you have to learn if you want to become a cloud security architect. This is some overview I won't tell you, team. Okay, now team, when talking about the cloud platform, so you can see that there is something called as a, now when you go for the AWS Certified Security Specialty exam, as I said before, it's a specialty level exam. That means they are primarily focusing on the security part of the cloud computing. Securing the AWS cloud architecture you're deploying is what the primary and the end goal of this particular certification. And the certification came in 2018. Specifically saying in April 2018. I remember, as if my mind is correct, my memory is correct, it's basically on April 2018 the certification first came. And what happened was, uh, means whenever AWS released an exam previously, okay, not now, I don't see it now, but before, when AWS releases a new exam, they will have a beta exam first. That means you can write a beta exam first, and then only they will release the main exam. So I wrote the beta exam. They have cancelled all the stuff after that. Then they again made another beta exam, again come to the security. Like, it was a long journey on that, but it's really interesting. Now, after all these years, this became one of the key certifications if you want to get into cloud security. So we'll come to that in detail, don't worry. But just to give you an idea on this exam, the cost of every specialty exam in the AWS is basically 300 US dollars plus tax will come according to the location you are. In India, if it's different, they have tax. So basically, wherever you are, based on your country, there is a tax for this particular certification. And you can write the exam via online proctored exam or Pearson VU testing center. Like, when you basically go for a, if you want to book an exam, it's very simple. Just make an account in the AWS. There's a website called as AWS.training. Okay, we have a website called as AWS.training. I'll show you the website just in case if anyone is not aware of it. AWS.training. So all you have to do is, the team, you have to create an account on this website called as AWS.training, and then you can book the exam through the Pearson VUE testing center. Previously there was PSI also available, but now only Pearson VUE. Just click on sign in or maybe create account and start booking the exam here. This is the website we have to use for booking the examination, aws.training. Now if you want to go for this team, means either you can write from home or office, wherever it is, or maybe the exam center also. And as per the exam, you have total of 65 questions there, team. You have a total of 65 questions. Out of the 65 questions, 50 questions is basically where you get the actual score. Okay, 50 questions is basically where you get the actual score, and 15 questions are just for research purposes, and it is basically there is no score for this particular thing. Don't forget. So total out of 65 questions you're having, 50 questions is basically where you are getting actually evaluated, and 15 questions are basically for research purposes, where they will only give you, or they will just they don't give you any score for it. So it's never, and also one more thing, it's never possible for you to identify which is the real one or the testing one, because it will be mixed up. Like it's not the last one, it's always mixed up. That means that you have to write all the 65 questions. Okay, that's how it works. And the exam is beautifully divided, team. Like, one thing I like about the certification is that this exam is covering everything you need. See, this exam is covering all the 5 domains, which is basically the key pillars of security. So when I teach, or basically when I start, I will always say this is one. Definitely this is a domain one I know, but again, obviously in the cloud platform, the most risky and most challenging one, identity and access management, managing the proper access to the cloud platform, authentication, authorization, and all this kind of stuff. Then we have to learn about the designing of a cloud infrastructure like VPC and all this kind of stuff. Then learning about the encryption and data security. Then having a proper logging, monitoring, and security alerting. Then incident response. These are the domains which we have for the current exam versions. As of now, we have total of 5 domains in the AWS Certified Security Specialty examination, and these are the weightages we are having here. Now, what are the prerequisites for this exam? Let's check it out, team. So see this, team. The AWS Certified Security Specialty validates your expertise in creating and implementing security solutions in the cloud platform. So now I'll give an example. Now you are currently an AWS cloud architect, or you are now currently, working as AWS data expert, AWS operations administrator, AWS monitoring expert, etc. This is a specialized certification who can basically focus on the security architecture and security operations of the cloud platform. Like for example, it's a wider topic, right? So it basically give you that perspective. Now, so if you want to basically know about the exam in detail now, team, you can basically go for this exam guide. It's basically available free of cost, and you can if I click on this exam guide, see this, team, you can see that. See, the AWS security specialty is for individuals who want to perform a security role in the cloud platform, and you must be able to have these skills. What are the skills you must have? You must be able to know the word concept of data classification, various data protection mechanisms, encryption, data in transit security, various AWS security services, and etc. And as per Amazon, you must have at least 5 years of IT experience. This is what they recommend. At least you must have a 5 years of IT security experience. But all these things are not mandatory. Anybody can write any AWS exam directly. If you want, you can basically write the AWS Certified Security Specialty exam directly. You don't have to pass any prior exams. You can directly go for the AWS Certified Security Specialty exam without any prerequisites. And they are saying that you must be able to know all these kind of concepts clear, like shared responsibility, security controls, logging and monitoring, threat modeling, patch management, automation, then disaster recovery, encryption. Like this, there are multiple things they are saying, telling you. And you can see the exam score here. So it's a multiple choice questions we have, and it contains totally 65 questions. 50 questions will affect your score, and 15 questions are basically unscored. Okay. And basically the passing score is now 750. This is the passing score, 750. Okay. And this is the current exam guide we are having. And the exam duration is now 170 minutes in the current existing exam pattern. Now, we are here to discuss about the new exam pattern called as a AWS Certified Security Specialty SCS C02. So, starting from the 11th of July 2023, if you say exactly nearly 5 years after the first exam release. The first exam was released on April 2018, and now it's in July 2023. Now they are planning for the change in this exam. They are adding a lot of new contents, and they are making the way a bit more detailed. And this exam is basically going to be changing from the July 11, 2023. And the one good part and bad part is that team, there is no beta exam. They will release the exam directly. There's no sample exam or beta exam before that. So let's do a comparison of this team. We'll have a small comparison of this exam. See this team, in the previous exam pattern, if you go for, you can see that there is only 5 domains. There is only 5 domains. Incident response, logging and monitoring, infra security, identity and access management, data protection. So you have only 5 domains. But if you go for the new exam pattern, you will be having total 6 domains. They have added one more domain called as a management and security governance. I will tell you why we are basically learning this. Don't worry, we'll be coming to this question in detail, don't worry. But any which ways team, they are now adding this domain called as a management and security governance. So the change they have made in the names is that team, this one is added additionally. And previously we have a domain called as a incident response, but now it's called as a threat detection and incident response. That's the difference in the names. Okay, that's the first thing. So if you basically see this team, it was basically previously 12%, but now they have increased it to 14%. Previously it was 20% for logging and monitoring. Now it's basically 18%. Like this, they have completely reshuffled the domains. Now, what about the exam? So Krish, how do I prepare for this? Team, one major thing which I always hear about the exam is that there is something called as a dumps. Team, what is a dumps? Have you heard of dumps in the exam team? I know everyone is aware of this. What is a dumps? Brain dumps or dumps, we'll say, right? These are previous questions, right? Previous questions. And basically, or maybe what I felt, bit, at least for me, what I felt personally in very bad is the team. When you go for the older AWS exams, you will see that by simply reviewing some dumps, by simply going through some dumps you are getting in the market, plus some memorizing some topics, you will be able to pass almost every AWS exams. But now if you see that team, in the exam, almost 99% of the questions you are getting, or maybe more than this, almost 99% plus questions you are getting in the exam is now scenario based. This is the most important thing, team. This exam is now completely scenario based. That means that you will not get any question or about what is this, what is that, nothing like that. They will give you a scenario. This is my challenge. This is what I'm currently facing. What is the best solution for this? So if you want to answer this, there are two things. If you want to answer this, it is mandatory that you must have a knowledge in AWS security service or AWS cloud services. Then you must be able to understand, you must be have done the hands-on part of AWS. If you want to pass the AWS exam team, you have to pass, or you have to do the hands-on part. You have to make your hands dirty. It's mandatory. Because I'll give an example. Now let's suppose you're getting a question in the AWS exam regarding incident response, or maybe some kind of a log management, alerting, etc. Until unless you have done that in with your bare hands, if you have not done that, then you will definitely will not be able to remember the steps. Because in the exam, in some exams I see is that team, they will give you all the answers correct. So we have a question, we have a 4 answers, let's suppose. Okay, so out of this all 4 answers, you will see all of them will be correct. You will see all of them will be correct. But if you read the question carefully, if you read the question carefully with the specific key points, plus If you think in a more of a business organizational perspective, then obviously you will be able to find the best out of it. Maybe in the cost perspective, maybe in the compliance perspective, maybe in the business perspective. If you read the question carefully, you'll be able to choose the best one out of all those four answers. And that is a kind of skill what AWS expects from you. This as certification now is completely scenario based. Every question you are getting in the exam will be asking you about a detailed approach. Like they will give you scenarios, they will give you challenges, and that is basically what we have to answer based on the your experience or what we have actually done. It's a first thing. Okay, like for example, now there is something called as a security automation. We have something called as security automation. So how do you respond to a security incident? How do you make sure that you automate the response for a security incident? How do you handle a proper patch management? How do you handle an issue when there is a non-compliance occurs? How do you basically handle data security challenges? Like this, they will give you some massive challenges and you have to be able to solve it. Okay, that is how it works. So let's do one thing, team. Let's dig into deeper about this particular new exam pattern. So let me take that link for you. So if you scroll down, you can see that the exam is going to change, and from starting from July 11th, you will be able to write the new exam. Okay, so if I basically scroll down, or if I basically click on this exam link, and if I click on that as exam guide, this is the new exam guide. This will is active from the July 11th. Okay, SCS C02 is the upcoming exam version. So I will tell you what all things they have made as a difference. Okay, I will tell you what all things they have made as a difference. So when you basically go for this team, uh, to give you an easy way to understand, sorry for this. So first of all, previously what they say is that team, the candidate must have a 5 years experience mandatory, right? Now what they say is that team, the candidates must be having at least 3 to 5 years experience in designing and implementing security solutions. Previously it was 5 years, now they are saying 3 to 5 years. But in the topic perspective team, I don't see much changes. Like, if you basically see the topic perspective, I'll show you the topics here. If you scroll down, I'll compare both side by side. You will be able to understand this easily. Just a minute. Okay, let me take the old one also. See this team. If you basically see the services in the older one, they are saying that, see, these are the services you have to learn. Like in the management governance, you have an audit manager, cloud trail, config. Like you have a lot of services here. If you go to the new version, they also have the same thing. They also have the same thing. The only difference, the team, are the only topic which I see, in my view, what I see is changed is the team. They have added one topic called as a network access analyzer. The topic perspective, okay, in the topic perspective, this is the only topic which they have added called as a network access analyzer. Rest every topic is same. Okay, if you see the in scope of service in AWS exam, the only topic which they have added is the network access analyzer. Except that almost every topics, the topic, the service names are same only. Okay. Now the next thing is that, but this time they have made your guide a bit more detailed. I'll show you how it works. See this team. Now, as I said before, there is a total of 6 domains now: threat detection, incident response, security logging and monitoring, infra security, identity and access management, data protection, and management security and governance. Now, if you go to the domain, first of all, we have something called as a design and implement incident response plan. Team, you will see two words here. The first word is called as a knowledge of. The second word is called as a skills in. What is the difference, team? Knowledge of means that, team, this is just you have to have a understanding, or you have to know what is this. And this is basically where you can apply this knowledge. You must be able to apply your knowledge. You must be having a proper hand or expertise to implement it. Okay, this is for your understanding. These things you must be able to understand. And whatever you have knowledge here, you must be able to apply that to implement on these things. So don't forget, team, if there is anyone who asks, if you feel a doubt that, Krish, what is the difference between knowledge of something and skills in something? Knowledge means, you know, okay, you have to understand what is this in a theoretical perspective. And skills, it means that, team, whatever you have learned there, how do I apply this in reality? Okay. Now, first is called as an incident response plan. What is incident response plan, team? So incident response means that now if there is any compromise happens, okay, now if there is any compromise happens, or if basically there is any kind of incident happens, key file compromises, then bucket compromised S3 bucket, compromised instances, ISP failure, see, if there is any so basically if there is any incident happen, what is the incident? Incident is an unplanned event. So whenever there is an incident happened, how do I take care of that? Or we can say, how do I make sure that I can have a proper incident response plan there? Because when you say incident response, it's not a single day thing. Like, you know, Krish, now there is an incident occurred, so we'll do something there. It's not like that. There is a predefined approach for each kind of incident, because the primary goal of an incident response is to restore the operation back as soon as possible and to minimize the impact. I'll repeat once again, team. The primary goal of incident response is to reduce the impact of the incidents and to make sure that we can restore the operation as soon as possible. Now, how do I basically do that, team? There's multiple things like detection. We have a detection phase, we have a containment phase, we have a securing phase. Like, we have multiple phases there. So we have to know the services like AWS. So we must, for detection, let's suppose if you want to detect something is wrong, you have to use services like guard duty, you have to use services like detective, you have to use something called a security hub, Macy, CloudWatch, CloudTrail. Like this, you have to use a multiple services for detecting these kind of incidents. And for response, you can use something called as a web application firewall. You can use something called as a uh, this one, like the DDoS protection shield. Then you go for something called as a security groups, network ACLs, network firewalls. Like this, you can do a lot of things. Using a lot of things, you can basically respond to it. Like the same way, that process is what we call as a incident response plan. So identifying the threats and also responding to incidents, it's a very important thing. So first of all, you have to have an understanding of the incident response plan. And from the previous exam topic, team, I have seen something called as a this AWS security findings format is there. Then how do you basically have a proper incident response plan? That is very important now. And also there is something called as a playbooks and runbooks. So if you are a person who is working in the SOC and all, you will basically know this playbooks and runbooks. So how do I basically understand or understand or implement a proper playbook or runbook? So these are something which they have added extra to the task 1. If you basically go to the task 2, detect security threats and anomalies, something different, right? Something is which is basically not normal. I'll give an example for a anomaly. Now, team, we have a okay, we have a something unusual. Yeah, I'll give an example. So we have something called as a uh, you know let's suppose I'm currently in India now. So in India, what happens? We have a website. We have website, or we have a shopping site. So we have a shopping website hosted on the cloud platform. So normally, this is only for Indian customers. Let's suppose that this is only for Indian customers. Now what will happen, team? Let's suppose that normally the traffic of this website will come from morning 8 a.m. to night 11 p.m. So between these hours, the traffic will be always fluctuating. Sometimes it will be high, sometimes it will be low. But if you see a massive amount of traffic coming in the middle of the night by 2 a.m., 2 a.m., or maybe 1:30 a.m., what do you have to understand there, team? What do you have to understand? Or what do you can suspect there? We can see it's an anomaly, right? Something is going wrong, right? I will give you another example. Now, you see that when you basically go for your identity and access management, you have seen some three new users. When you open your identity and access management, you see some three new users. Okay, but you didn't create them. You are seeing that in between occasionally some new users are getting created, some instances are getting, some VMs are getting created, some buckets are getting created. So that is something which is suspicious, right? So identifying these anomalies and fixing it in the root can basically avoid a lot of challenges. Okay, that is basically what we call as a task statement to call as a detect security threats and anomalies by using AWS services. See, like we can use something called as a IAM access analyzer, config. This is a very important service team. Trust me, you will get at least more than 5-6% of the exam which will have a word called as config. Like this is basically a very like this, we have a security hub, Macy. So you by using these services, you can find these kind of threats and anomalies. So I gave you two examples of anomalies. Like this, we have multiple examples. So we have to know how these anomalies can basically be detected. And that is what we call as a detect security threats and anomalies. So if you want to know something is an anomaly, first what you have to know what is normal, right? If you know what is normal, then you know what is anomaly, right? So that is the same way you have to basically make sure you configure your proper cloud service. That's what we call a task management 2. Now we have something called a 3 called as a respond to compromised workloads. So this is a very interesting theme. In fact, one of my one, even though it's a very small topic, I feel, but this is one of my favorite things in the marketing. Respond to compromise. If there is a compromise happens, let's say user compromise, an application security compromise, instance compromise, bucket compromise. If there is a compromise happened, how do you manage it? How do you respond to it? And that is what we call as a responding to compromise workloads. Okay, responding to compromised workloads. So in that scenario, when you respond, I'll give an example, team. Now, for anything which is happening in your business, if you do a response manually, what is the problem, team? Tell me. For anything happening in your business, you are just responding manually. Attackers has done enough damage, right? Like, okay, now you identify there is something wrong, and after that, after some time, maybe after you have reached back to your office, you open your laptop, you log into the cloud platform. By the time you respond to that particular security incident, the attacker has done enough mistake there, enough damage there, right? So how do I avoid that? That is the reason why we go for a automation there. How do I automate? See, you don't have to be a master in automation here, but they want you to understand the concepts of automation, where all areas we can apply the automation. Like for example, now is it or which all tools you can use for automation, and some examples you have to learn here. Okay, and how do you properly respond to a step-by-step incident? That's a very important. This is a very important part of this domain. Then we have a logging and monitoring domain. So team, logging and monitoring, don't confuse the name. It is talking about logging, security monitoring, and all the kind of stuff. So first of all, design and implement monitoring and alerting to address security events, team. Always keep one point in mind. If you want to respond to a security incident, you must be first of all have a mechanism to properly detect it. What happens if your detection mechanisms are weak? Obviously, everything is gone, right? So detection is one major challenge. Now there is an attack happens, there is a compromise happens. If I don't know if that is happening, if I don't know that is basically there, how do you respond to it? See, that's why we have to always make sure we have understanding of the. Now that's a very so Krish, currently I'm having some tools or I'm having already a SOC in my company, or basically some tools in my company. So can I basically use that to my cloud also, or extend to my cloud also? Now point number one is the team. Definitely, yes, you can have a SOC in your on-premise and all. But like the same way, when you say you're going to cloud platform, you have to plan your SOC, or you have to plan your operations in such a way that it must be able to understand and address the specific security challenges in the cloud platform as well. So now What we are learning in this domain is that whatever we are having in the on-premises, what is the kind of similar service in the AWS cloud platform, which is specifically able to manage the security operations in the cloud. Got it? Like in AWS, in on-premises, we use a tool called as a Splunk. What is a Splunk team? It's a SIM tool, right? So like Splunk, can I use Splunk in the AWS cloud platform? Or what is a native AWS default AWS tool in the AWS tool for SIM solution, like Guard Duty? Example. Yeah. And team, before we go
Yes,
for this,
yes.
always keep in mind, team, the domain number one we are having, right? It is covering 14%, and you can expect approximately up to 9 questions on the domain one. But again, it can vary, but approximately 9 questions. If you see the percentage value, 9 questions you can expect from the exam from the domain one. In the domain two team, we have something called as a security and monitoring, where we're talking about the monitoring and alerting to address. So basically, you must be able to have a detection mechanism. You must be able to monitor the events and alert you, like when something is going wrong, you must be alerted, plus there must be a proper automated response for that particular activity also. Then how to troubleshoot? See, basically, sometimes even if you have implemented monitoring and logging, still it may not be satisfying the proper requirements, so you have to continuously optimize it to make sure that that is properly able to meet your business requirements. Okay, that's it. Then design and implement proper logging. Team, logging is of many use cases. Why do you log? Compliance, business requirements, forensic, for many purpose, you have dual logging. And if you talk about logging, you have different type of log files: application logs, network logs, access logs, monitoring, CloudWatch logs. If you see, you can see a lot of log files. So how do I basically collect all these log files properly? How do I properly integrate them? How do I analyze them based on the requirements? How do I basically receive the findings? How do I segregate them? That's very important. Okay, like including troubleshooting also. How do I normalize it? How do I feed it to a sim tool, like that? So the domain two is, I feel the domain two is one of the most important domains, and the domain two is basically 18% of the exam. So obviously it will take almost around, what we can say, nearly 12 questions you will be getting the exam. Okay, so in domain one you will get 9 questions approximately, and domain two I'm expecting you will get approximately 12 questions in the exam. Then if you go for domain three is talking about the infra security or infrastructure security. So I will say that, team, this domain three is the largest domain you have, or most, because it covers 20% of the exam. Okay, this domain covers 20% of the exam. That means approximately 13 questions you get in the exam. So when you go for this, team, now when you basically build a data center in your premises, you create networks, you create sub networks, right? Team, why do we create networks and sub networks, team? In our on premises, why do we divide our network into sub networks? For segregation, right? For segmentation, to make sure that we can isolate the different kind of zones and all, right? Now in the cloud also, you are deploying a virtual data center. You're deploying something called a VPC, virtual private cloud, where you have to have a DMZ, public, private, secure, like you have different zones there, right? And how do you secure them? What are the AWS services we can use for securing them, managing the traffic, to route the traffic to them, serve them without an issue? So what are the common service we can use for that? And when compared to the previous exam, team, I see that this is almost the same. Again, this is almost everything is basically same only, team. But I see some, the difference is that they have specifically mentioned some words, except that everything is same. Okay. Then we have something called as a task within two. We're talking about design and implement proper controls. Like, team, there is a word called as a defense in depth. We have a word called as a defense in depth. So what is defense in depth? I'll give an example, team. Now, at the time of the COVID pandemic, you were wearing a mask, right? And you were wearing at least a mask with the 3 layers. Why do you want to wear a 3-layer mask in the COVID pandemic? Or maybe you may be wearing some 10, 20 layers also. Why? Like the same way, in security, this is the baseline principle. This is a major principle, either in cloud or on premises. That means that, team, whenever we have a security control, we must make sure we have one more control must be there in place, so that even if this control misses the thing, this control can catch it. For any control which is directly addressing a threat, there must be a compensatory control, or there must be a backup control to catch the failure of the first one. And in fact, even the cloud platform, you need to have a very extensive knowledge of that without affecting performance and without affecting usability. You must know how to have a proper defense in depth in the cloud platform. Trust me, team, this is, even though in the, I don't know, I'm not talking about the exam. If you go for the interviews or if you basically work in the real time, this is one major thing, because you need to know how to plan a proper defense in depth approach in the cloud platform. Trust me, this is super important. You must know like what is the use of a security group, network ACLs, firewalls, WAF. So how do you use it for multiple layers? How do you secure the traffic from one location to another? How do you configure a VPC and all this kind of stuff, right? So out of this team, like, you must be able to have an understanding of these kind of things. And basically, see, when you say skills in, doesn't mean you must know how to implement everything in this. You must know the architecture of these things. That's all. Now, the third thing is the team designing and implementing security controls of computer. So basically, for example, let's suppose now you are running servers, or you're running containers, or you're running maybe lambda functions, etc., or maybe serverless, etc. For all this kind of stuff, how do you ensure that you have a proper security for your servers or your containers, etc.? That is what we're talking in the domain called as a implement security controls, or module called as implement security controls for compute workloads. Then obviously troubleshooting. So as I said before, team, the domain 3 is basically one of the major domains in the exam, because this is the covers the massive largest part of the exam, where it contains 20%, and approximately you can expect up to 13 questions in that one 3. Then we have the next domain called as domain 4. This is my all-time favorite. This is my all-time favorite and the most important domain according to me. If I teach AWS security, I will teach this first, because this is my all-time favorite, because this is the most hottest things in the market. And team, in the previous domain, always keep in mind, this is the domain where we have one major topic additionally added called as a VPC uh, reachability analyzer. That's one thing they have added also. Now here in the domain 4, identity and access management, team, trust me, this domain it's almost like 16%, right? This domain covers totally 16%, so you will get approximately up to 10 questions in the exam, I'm expecting. Okay, now in this domain, how much more you can get your hands dirty, that much is a chance you pass the exam. If you're going for the if in the exam perspective, how much make your hands dirty in this domain, that much you chance you pass the exam. Because this domain, trust me, team, is very important, where you must know how to provision users, secure them, access control, roles, multi-account access. So when you go for an organization, they will never go for a single AWS account. They have to go for a multi-account scenario. So how do you manage it? How do you manage the permissions? How can you revoke the permissions? How do you have a proper multi-account management? How do you have a role-based access control? What is separation of duties? Like this, you have to learn all this stuff. Okay, this is one major domain we are having. Okay, so like for example, now you're a user in the cloud platform. What are the prerequisites you have to keep in mind when securing users, when managing the user accounts, or when managing your application users? How do you make sure you give the proper permission to them? How do you revoke the permission? How do you restrict the permission to a particular time? What is a conditional based policy like that? Then, and one more thing is that, team, what I am saying in every domain, so I'm telling you, right, in this domain you will get 10 questions, in the other domain you will get 13% right. But always keep it for one point in mind, that these questions are always mixed up. In the scenarios, multiple topics will be mixed up. Always keep in mind, okay? And the next domain, which was the previous last domain, called as a domain 5, called as data protection, where we are talking about two things: data at rest and data in transit, or data in motion. What is data at rest? The data which is storing in some kind of storage devices. And data in transit means data which is moving. So how do I secure these data? Where we talk about the encryption, key management, the HSM devices, security. So this is one major thing, because I have seen nearly in the and as per the new exam pattern, it's 18 percentage. So approximately you will get 12 questions in the exam. Okay, on this thing. This is one major domain we are having for sure. You have to know about encryption end to end. Whatever encryption mechanism you can have for AWS cloud platform, you must learn that end to end if you go for this domain called as data protection. Then there is a last domain which they have newly added called as a management and security governance. Now, this domain covers approximately 14% of the exam, so you will get for sure at least 9 questions. So Krish, why do I learn this? Definitely, all these things are from the previous exam only, but this domain is very important for us. Team, now you are working in a company. Okay, whatever you do from that point you reach your organization to log off, you're doing it for the business, right? So now I'm currently working in an organization. So whatever I'm doing must be aligned with the business requirements, right? Because now let's suppose your company says, team, go ahead, learn AWS, go ahead, learn Azure. Why your company want to learn AWS? Why your company want you to learn Azure? It's because they want to make sure that you will be ready so that they will be able to meet their business requirements, right? Like when handling multiple accounts, when handling self services, when handling all these things, how do you properly have a proper governance over it? I'll tell you what is a governance. Now, it's a common word, team. Governance is a very common word we are having. Now you are currently working as a part of an organization. So to make sure that whatever things you're doing is aligned with the proper business requirements, to ensure that whatever activities you are performing in your organization or whatever things you're doing must be aligned, the rules or the activities or the structured approach or everything you're creating for ensuring that whatever you're doing in the business is supporting the company is called as a governance. Team, how do you ensure governance? By policies, right? And that is what you're learning in this domain called as a management and security governance. So team, these are the total 6 domains you have in the examination. In fact, this domain is very important for sure, team. You have to, means whatever topics are same from the previous exam only, but this is a very important exam thing. So in this exam also, the exam format is basically 65. You will have a total of 65 questions in the new exam also. As per the updates from the website, you will you will have only 65 questions. Again, 50 questions are basically for the score, and 16 questions are basically for the research based. Now, I'm just giving some next 10 minutes for the people who already know AWS. Maximum 5-10 minutes for people who already know AWS. I'll give you some 1 or 2 questions, team. I want you to see if you can answer this. Team, please go through this question. This is how the question will look in the exam if you go for the AWS Certified Security Specialty. Now, I will give you a rule to follow, team. If you basically practice it properly, you always read this first. Read the choices first. Then read the question line by line. Read the entire question. This is very important. Read the entire question and understand what is the requirement they are telling you. Don't think as an exam perspective. Think as a team in your company is asking you for this. Be in that role and you answer this. A security architect want to assess and maintain AWS resource compliance. To achieve this compliance, the security architect must confirm the subnets of the VPC are not assigned a public IP address before the subnets are provisioned. The security architect also want to configure a solution to automatically detect and centralize a list of security findings. What should the architect do to meet the requirements with the fewest configuration steps? Now team, this is based on the new curriculum and this needs one particular knowledge. That means that in AWS, okay, in AWS last year, okay, last year I guess, The key points is like this, team. Whenever you're planning to deploy something, the VPC must be properly complying with the requirements before it is provisioned. Before it is provisioned. If you want to do something before it is provisioned, there must be something proactive. That means that, team, now in AWS, last year they have introduced a feature called as a proactive compliance. The AWS config has basically implemented something called as a proactive compliance. Okay. AWS config last year has got a new change called as a proactive compliance. Using the proactive compliance, if you basically, or definitely I want to explain more, I'm just giving an idea only. Using the proactive compliance, you can make sure that you can basically see, maybe A can be right or B can be right, but question clearly says the point that fewest configuration steps, then D will be the answer. I'm not going for much deeper about this because, team, this is not a session for that. This is for the overview. So the exam questions will look like this. Okay, one more question, team. Can you answer this? Try it out, team. Okay. So, team, if you go for this question, a company has a legacy application that output all logs to a local text file. Log from all company applications that run AWS must be continuously monitored for security messages. So, team, now this is the point where you have to understand about one point. The only way you can monitor logs inside an instance, the only way you can monitor a logs inside an instance is using something called as a CloudWatch logs. Okay, point number one, the only way you can use or you can you monitor the log files from inside an instance or inside a server is basically using a service called as a CloudWatch logs. So now, team, we can eliminate all the other things. Can you basically eliminate other things, team? It is never possible for you to, export something to CloudTrail. You can take it from CloudTrail, you cannot give it to CloudTrail. So it's never possible, practically impossible. Now, let's do one thing, team. Let's eliminate all the other things without CloudWatch. So whenever you talk about the identity and access management logs, go to CloudTrail. Whenever talking about OS or application logs, think about CloudWatch logs. So the answer is B. Because using the CloudWatch logs, you can send all the, when talking about CloudWatch logs, what happens is that in this CloudWatch logs, you can see that the first one, if you basically go for CloudTrail, as I said before, it's never possible for you to send anything to CloudTrail. Inspector is basically for a different story. Now here I'm talking about logging inside the operating system, and that is only possible through the CloudWatch logs. So these kind of key concepts you have to keep in mind for the exam. Okay, that's it. Answer is B for this. Okay, just giving you some two examples, team, about the kind of questions you get in the exam. But trust me, if you do these things, if you do these things, if you read and do these things properly, this exam is going to be the easiest one for you. Now, one more thing we will discuss and we will finish, team. Now, many people ask me a question that, so Krish, now I'm currently learning AWS or I'm learning cloud. What is the, or do I get, or do we have job requirements like that? Now, team, I'll show you some two job roles which I have seen now. So this job roles are just for demo purpose. I just got it from the internet today, and this is never which we are providing or Infosec Train is providing or anyone is providing. Just an example. Okay, it's just for your understanding. There is no specific information about this. See this, team, whatever you learn in the AWS security specialty is here. See, IAM, security groups, security hub. See, whatever you are learning in the AWS security specialties, what they want in this certification. But just before that, team, before I go for this, one question I commonly get is that, Krish, when I'm going for a security architect, what skills I need? Team, keep this document with you. This document is mandatory for you. Okay, this is from the Gartner. So whenever you're learning security in the cloud platform. Don't take it personal, team. Whenever you are learning security in the cloud platform, either AWS or Azure or GCP or anything, if you are becoming a cloud security slide, okay, if you are going to be a cloud security expert, or if you want to secure your profile in cloud security, these are the additional skills they recommend. These are the skills they recommend add on, especially in my perspective, this one, this one, this one, this one, and sometimes this also. Everything is important for sure, team. Trust me, this is mandatory. If you want to become a cloud security architect, cloud security engineer, cloud security manager, cloud security expert, whatever it is, these skills are going to make you stand on top in the any scene for sure. Trust me. Because now previously the problem was, I will tell you, just telling you openly, team, previously the problem was, if I interview a person, I have interviewed many people for many companies. If I interview a person, I will never think about the certification, because I know that there's a lot of people just memorize the questions and go through the exam and pass the exam and give me certifications. So I was a person who hate the certifications for a long time. Now also I don't promote certifications a lot, but especially in AWS and all. But now the state is changing, because if you want to earn a AWS exam certification or something like that, you need to have the real skills. Point number one. And more than memorizing the concepts, you must have a proper understanding and hands-on expertise in doing that for sure. And these add-on skills every company will check. If you go for the security job in AWS, make this list in your mind. This is going to help you a lot. For example, see this team, the cloud risk management, cloud security architecture, container security, DevSecOps concepts. See these add-on skills, if you can basically add to your profile and your resume and CV, it will definitely make a change for sure. Okay, just giving a suggestion. Now, team, see this team. This is a very interesting job role, right? See this team. So whatever you're learning in the AWS Certified Security Specialty is what only here. I don't see anything extra here. There is the same thing only, right? I'll show you one more thing here. But if you go for this interview, they will not ask you about what. They will not ask you what is Macy, or they will not ask you what is Shield. They will give you a scenario and they will do that. In any cloud interviews, they will never ask you regarding the name of the service. They ask you regarding how this can be accomplished. Okay, with what capabilities. And obviously having a Linux skill, or having the understanding of proper networking, having a proper security skills and outside the cloud is also can be for sure an add-on for this. And see team, this is another job role I have seen now. Okay, I just remove the name of the job role also, because it's a bit challenging. See this team, you can see that again, IAM guard duty. So everything you're learning here is there. So now, Krish, out of these things, I am only aware of some 80 to 90% topics. Out of this whole JD you can see here, out of this, I am only aware of some, or let's suppose 70 to 80% only. Can I apply for this? Team, help me. Can I apply for this? I want to change my job. Help me, team. Can I basically apply for this? If you can know the core 80% topics in this particular thing, I feel this can be, you can apply for this job. Because what happens now, team, the requirements can vary from organization to organization. So obviously they will ask you for multiple things. That's the reason why I'm saying that, team, you learn the AWS certified cloud security specialty, especially after this curriculum is changed. Plus you also learn these as a side things. You try to learn and understand this thing, read more about this, understand what is the changes happening to this. So these are going to help the way you're going to uh, mold your career. So it's very important. I strongly recommend. Is it clear, team, all of you? And I hope this discussion was helpful to your team. Like, it's just not being a routine discussion. It was, I hope it was basically always, yep, that's it.